lovies, welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. Let's talk about Charnita's World Season 1, Episode 3. So today's going to be a bit of a review and a recap. And if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. I love you. Really appreciate you taking the time to listen. And don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment in the comment section below. So the episode started with the discussion about his daughter's experience in school, and her friends didn't want to play with her, or people at school didn't want to play with her because she was black. And so, of course, Charnita decided to take it upon herself to do certain things to cheer her up and to educate her a little bit. So she took her over to a boutique that they own to sort of show her, there's more to life, and try to whisper like words of encouragement to her. It was very beautiful to see her encouraging her daughter to be self-assured, and even if no one wants to play with you, it's fine. Know who you are. And I think it's so important to teach children to know who they are and stand on who they are at such a young age. And so I really, really appreciated that. Then after that, her mother took her to get her nails done, to get her hair done. And they both wore like afro wigs, which I thought was very pretty. Walked around in the park. Charnita was teaching her daughter more about being black and being proud, and what the experience of some of her ancestors were in relation to just living as a black person in America, essentially. Really liked that. I like seeing parents engage with their children, educate their children on history, and also just teach their children how to be confident and self-assured. I always think it's very, very good to build your children's self-esteem so they don't end up looking for that esteem outside in other people. You want it to be something they get from self as opposed to getting their esteem from other people, which is very, very detrimental. Like, that's why some people end up in terrible relationships, because they don't have self-esteem and they're looking to other people to get the esteem that they need. So sometimes it can be like that. So I really appreciated the conversation, and these are the sorts of things we want to see on a show. And over on the other side, while Charnita was hanging out with her daughter, Jason was using the opportunity to hang out with their son, who was getting a haircut, and they were bonding. They were also talking to the barber about like some of the different things and legacy, and like wanting to educate his son. And I just think that's very beautiful. You want to be able to educate your son, especially if you want them to have a strong sense of self, a strong sense of family, a strong sense of this is what we're building. We'd love for you to be a part of it. How can you pour into the family business? And all sorts of like getting them to have a buy-in in working on building their legacy. And so I think that was very, very nice to see. I really like how they were like, okay, let's do an activity, but then let's talk as well. And I actually think like that's a very good idea. Like, sometimes I think parents could feel like, oh, I want to tell my child about this, but it's always nice to like also add a little something, an activity or something to ease their child, to get them relaxed, and then so that when you're having the conversation, it's a lot easier. Now, of course, it can't be every day, but I think sometimes just trying to see where you can accommodate such. I think the other thing that I saw that I really liked was when Jason and his son Jay were playing, and like they were mud riding together. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, like it's really nice to like just see families bond. And also seeing Jason talking to his property manager, who manages sort of like the day-to-day operation of Jason's properties. um he seemed to be showing him like a warehouse, like a space. I would say this is, I don't think it was specifically mentioned, but my thought is, remember how a previous episode we saw them packing up to leave? I feel like they're probably going to be moving into this new space, which seemed quite big. It also seemed like Jason really appreciated Jimmy. Jimmy seemed to have worked for Jason for a long time. which is usually a good sign. Most times when people stay with the same employer for a while, sometimes it's because people don't want to go anywhere, but most times it's also because that employer is a decent boss. Because I think if he wasn't a decent boss, most people would be like, okay, I'm out. Like that's it, right? But he seems to still be there, so he must be at least a decent enough boss. So that's what I would say. But that's just an assumption, of course. It's just most people don't stay in, like, of course you get the exclusion to the rule, but most people, I feel, or maybe I should just say some is probably easier. Some people don't stay in jobs that are toxic, and would leave, um, and would not stay somewhere for such a long time if it was a toxic space to work at. Now, let's move on a little bit to Shanita deciding to take a girl's trip to Atlanta. So what she did say is when she found out that her name was not on three of her husband's bank accounts, she was upset about it. Of course, we saw a little bit about that in therapy that they did. But what was interesting was that she was like, she felt like she had to cool off. And so she decided she's going to turn up and turn out with her friends. So they met up in LA essentially, and I thought that was nice. It like she had a bunch of people show up for her, and I think it's always nice to have people show up for you. Now I know some people would have known that it the television, is for TV, and there's going to be a camera there, so they may have been performing and they may have showed up just for that reason. But in any event, I would just say, like, sometimes having friends show up and travel just because you want to travel, you want to do something, can be a bit hard, especially with everyone's schedule. But like the fact that people basically just upped and like decided to go ahead, and also it didn't give me the impression that like this is something she had been planning for a while. It seemed more like an impulsive decision. And so the fact that she was still able to gather a decent amount of friends, I'm like, that is good. That is really good. Um, I completely understand where Shanita is coming from. If I have a husband, I want to know that your account, or, if we're saying this is something we're doing together, business accounts, all that stuff, then my name should be on it. It's just a bit weird if my name isn't on it and we're both building this together. Versus if it's something where, it's your private account, you get paid your salary into it. That's absolutely different, right? I would be weird if I'm like, oh, so why is my name not on that? That's your personal salary account. Like, it's unless we had discussed that my name should be on it, then that's different, right? But when it comes to like group account, joint accounts, those sorts of things, or like accounts we had discussed should be joint, then that is a huge problem for me. Now, of course, Shanita has made it clear she ain't trying to leave her man, and I'm like, yes, ma'am. But she sort of wants to like take some time to herself and also give him the opportunity to miss her a little bit. So I thought that was nice. Um, a little petty, I will say, a little petty. But I feel like sometimes if you want something done, sometimes space is a good factor when you need someone to realize that you're not playing and you're serious about something. So sometimes it works. But when you overdo it, then they don't care anymore. They're just like, please go now. So I feel like there has to be a balance in relation to that. So while Shanita was in Atlanta, Jason actually caught up with his mom for lunch. I think his mom is very beautiful. I just have to say that every time I see his mom on the screen, I'm like, she is gorgeous. Um, so they were having lunch and like catching up. It sounded like the mom had been traveling a lot and she's had like some check-ins or checkups with the doctors. We also found out that she's a cancer survivor, um, which, and she was diagnosed a few years back and she successfully beat that. She did treatments for about a year, and it was nice to hear her story. Of course, I was broken for her and how difficult it must have been. And also, it sounds like it's still an ongoing process of monitoring. And so, of course, my heart breaks for her. But it's nice to see her in good spirits. It's nice to see her excited. It's nice to see her just looking good and hearing that she's cancer free. So I really loved that. I loved how that was infused into it, but that wasn't like the full sort of story. It was like, yes, we were given a little bit of background, but then we were given enough on the screen outside of the confessionals to actually know a little bit more about her situation. So that's what I thought. Altogether, I would say a decent episode. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it's my favorite episode. I think my favorite episode was that episode 2. I believe I really enjoyed episode 2. But yeah, let's see what comes up in the next few episodes. But other than that, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tap that bell next to it so you know every single time that I post. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.